And welcome in once again to NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Flow Racing here on the Motor Racing Network. My name is Chris Wilner, and boy, oh boy, we had a lot of racing going on this weekend. As always, my co-host Kyle Rickey out from Connecticut at Stafford. Are you at Stafford or are you at home today?
I'm home today.
He's home. Okay, Killingly,
Yeah.
Connecticut. He is at home. We usually see you at Stafford because you basically lived there the past couple weeks since SRX, so it's probably nice to be at home here for once.
Yeah, taking a little bit of a break. We had our Monday night Wild Thing Cards program this week, preparing for just a normal show on Friday night with the SK Modifieds and the late models, the SK Lights, the street stocks, and the limited late models. So going to be fun. I understand we have some special guests coming to the track this week on Friday night.
Yeah, you bet your bottom dollar. Chris Wilner, yours truly, will be making his first ever trip to Stafford Motor Speedway coming up on Friday. I am so excited. Kyle's been hounding me since I probably met you at some point to make it up there to Stafford, and I kept blowing him off. Not really. It's a little bit of a ways out there for me, and I'm never really in that part of the country. But thanks to IMSA Sports Car Weekend being out at Lime Rock, which is about an hour and 40 minutes away, I'm going to have my Friday night free, and I'm going to go check out Stafford. So I expect that the red carpet's going to be rolled out, right?
I should be there right now, actually, laying that red carpet out.
Yes.
And getting the beverages ready up in the press box and
making
sure you have a nice cushy chair.
I only expect the best. I want the a typical on-air talent. I want my red M&Ms only in a bag, so pick out all the other colors. Bucket on ice, full of beer, ready to go for when I get there. So
no, I get it. You'll have it Friday night. Don't you worry.
I'm just really excited to hang out with you and be a part of your element, right? We talk about Stafford all the time on the show and all the great racing out there, and it's one thing to watch it on Flow or on television on the case of SRX, but to see it in person, I can't wait for sure.
It's going to be a fun night. Weather looks good, so that's a plus. Racing's been great all year. This is going to mark the halfway point of our 2022 season, so going to be a good night. It was a Banfield of cars last week. We got to watch together at Mid-Ohio, and this week we get to watch together in person.
I know, and you'll be working. I'm not going to be working, so it's going to be great for me, but it'll be a good time had by all, and it'll also be a little reunion, NASCAR Coast to Coast past and present. Yours truly, obviously, the present, but Hannah Newhouse is going to be there as well. Her and I both will be at Lime Rock this weekend for IMSA, so it'll be cool for her and I to go venture over there as well, and you get to see your kids in the flesh at your home there in Stafford.
Not sure if Stafford Speedway is ready for this on Friday night.
Well, they better be, so you've got a couple days to work it out. All right, enough of that. We've got a great show for you folks coming up this episode of NASCAR Coast to Coast. Obviously, the guest of the week is going to be Jimmy Blewett, who, if you haven't paid attention, won out at Wall Stadium Speedway this past weekend as part of the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. We'll get to that in a little bit, but awesome to have Jimmy back. It's been a season, I guess we could put it that way. Obviously, he's a legend when it comes to modifieds, but all the difficulties off the track, he had to miss a couple races, and then he hasn't really won in a while, so I think 2016, so it's good to see him back. I'm sure he's going to have loads to talk about coming up in segment number 2 with Jimmy Blewett. All right, but we always start off with our NASCAR Coast to Coast top 7, our top 7 winners of the week. Tons of racing as we now get into the heart of the summer months here in July. And might as well kick it off, Kyle, with the driver we saw take the checker flag out at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. That is Taylor Gray, his second career ARC Menard Series win on the road course in what was, a little bit of everything at Mid-Ohio. We had torrential downpours, we had standing water, we had a tire strategy, and ultimately a ruling that came down that ruined it for a couple of the top contenders, but Taylor Gray able to get the pass done on Chris Wright late in the race and get his second career win. You surprised about the success from Taylor here early on?
No, I mean it's a team that has proven itself in the ARC Menard Series over the last several seasons in DGR. Taylor Gray has obviously proven himself. I think we would have seen a hell of a lot more out of Taylor last year if he had not been injured in that car accident, that road car, private car incident, not on the racetrack. Doesn't surprise me. He's a good road racer. He's a good oval racer. The set of circumstances that he was set to deal with on Friday was interesting, starting in the wet, ending in bright sunshine and dry racetrack. And everybody was guessing what to do at the halfway break. And it was an interesting race. It was fun to call here on the Motor Racing Network. And no, not surprised that Taylor was able to pick up the win. He is, I think, one of the stars of the future.
Yeah, he certainly is, and he's only going to get better with age. Again, can't run the big tracks yet because he is still too young, so time will tell to see what kind of role he can get on maybe the next year or two once he gets to run the full schedule. Obviously, he's full-time out in the E-Series. All right, Kyle, we've got our coast-to-coast top 7, number 2. Who we got?
Well, it's going to be our guest today, Jimmy Blewett, picking up the Jersey Shore 150 win for the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour, their return trip to Wall Stadium Speedway, Jimmy's home racetrack in New Jersey. Great race. 27 cars took the green. Not a lot of caution. The last time we were there 3 years ago, we saw like 15 or 16 caution flags. Just 4. There was one for a 10-car pileup, but for the most part, a clean event. Great run for Jimmy, winning in the famed 7 New York for Tommy Baldwin Jr., a team that has been hot this year. I feel like no matter who gets in that race car, they find success, and Jimmy was able to find success both on the outside lane and the inside lane. 2 back-to-back restarts, picked off the second spot using the outside, then picked off the race lead on a restart when he was forced to go to the bottom. Great race car. He knows that racetrack better than anybody. And again, not a surprise that Jimmy was able to pick up the win on Saturday night.
Yeah, whoever touches that 7NY usually turns out to be a race winner. I mean, that's Tommy's 4th different win, 3 different drivers. I'm sure we'll ask Jimmy about it and just kind of what kind of role they can get on here now that Jimmy's back behind the wheel. All right, my coast-to-coast top 7, number 4. I'm going to go, or number 3, I should say. I'm going to go with Bobby Labonte. Yeah, you heard that right. Finally picked up an SRX when he's been trying in his 9th different start with the series at a racetrack, Nashville Fairground Speedway, that also battled some Mother Nature, especially with the pro late models that also were kind of the support series for that weekend. But again, winning at Nashville Fairgrounds, duking it out with the likes of Matt Kenseth and Greg Biffle. I mean, take me back to the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. And it was really cool to see kind of the old legends surpass some of the youngsters, including the hometown kid, Cole Williams, who struggled a little bit in the feature, although he did win his heat race. But Bobby won at Nashville Fairground Speedway more than 25 years ago in the Busch Series race out there in 1996. So pretty cool to see him get back to victory lane. An emotional, victory as well. I mean, not so much that emotion, but more of just a relief that I can win again, because we see him compete in the modifieds, but he's been close. Hasn't touched victory just yet, but this was a big win for him.
And Alan Bestwick, I think, at the end of the broadcast, had the amount of days between that Busch Series win and last Saturday night. It was like 10,000 something, I think, between wins at Nashville. It was a great story, something that we have seen a lot out of this year in the SRX 4 races run thus far. Another good run by Marco Andretti, finishing in the 2nd spot. And now I'm hearing that he may want to come over and play with the NASCAR boys more, looking at a possible Xfinity ride for Marco.
Yeah, he dropped that in the post-race interview, thinking, well, if I can hang with these guys, I think I can hang with Xfinity. Well, pump the brakes, Marco. Let's figure out which ride here you're going to be in, what track. Maybe if you can find a short track, I think he'd be all right. But I don't think SRX cars handle quite like NASCAR Xfinity Series machines, so may need to get a test session there. But I'm a big Marco supporter. Just have always liked, the lineage of the Andretti family, and certainly he still wants to race. It may not be on a full-time level in IndyCar, but I think he still has the competitive fire. So be interesting to see what happens here. All right, Kyle, Coast to Coast top 7, number 4.
Back to the New Smyrna Speedway down in Florida. The Southern Super Series were in competition. The Bash at the Beach 100. Full field of all the big super late model stars on the East Coast, including Matt Craig, Jet Nolan, Jake Garcia. But it was a familiar name going to victory lane. Brad May picking up the win. Some call it an upset. I don't know if it's an upset. I mean, he knows that racetrack so well. One of the winningest drivers at New Smyrna in the last several seasons. Was able to pick up the win, hold off the best. Another event that, no surprise, battled weather on Saturday night. A lot of thunderstorms in the area, but they were able to get the race complete. And Brad May picking up the race win.
Yeah, he's won World Series events down there, and you mentioned upset. I think the term upset, it's almost like comparing to the World of Outlaws, right? You have the Outlaws versus the Posse. Well, the Posse in this case would be the local stars at each track that the Southern Super Series faces, and if you can topple the Bubba Pollards, the Jake Garcias, it's considered an upset, but you're right. Brad May has more career wins there than I don't think anybody else in the field. So Not a shock, but it was cool to see him get his first Southern Super Series win. Bobby Spears, his car owner, his first Southern Super Series win. And that series is must-see TV this year. I think probably the most competitive field they've had over the last couple of years.
Absolutely. And you mentioned all the big names there a moment ago, and it was a great field. I was there 4 races to go, I believe,
Yep.
here in this 2022 season for the Southern Super Series. And you're right. Every time they take the green flag, it's been must-see TV.
Well, let's go back to Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway and my Coast to Coast Top 7, number 5, Willie Allen. He runs the Rackley War Racing wagon for the late model series, and he won the Master of the Pros 150 at Nashville. Again, kind of a race that was in 2 parts due to Mother Nature, but it finally got going. Ran a little bit late into the night for some, but was able to hold off some of the stars. Again, that's a iconic race at Nashville because it is a part of such a big weekend with SRX, and not to mention $10,000 richer. And for Willie, I mean, it's kind of been up and down season for him, but to put Rackley War, his name, on kind of more of a national stage in front of a packed house at Nashville. That's the other thing about that weekend. I mean, everywhere SRX goes, it's packed, as you know, from Stafford, but a heck of a crowd that stuck around for the Master of the Pros race. It was cool to see Willie get a win.
Yeah, great at his home racetrack, obviously. Another good field of race cars. Willie's been around for a long time. You know, he's dabbled in NASCAR's National Series before returning to the local level at Nashville Fairgrounds, and won the event the other night. Good for Willie, and to do it in front of probably what will be the biggest crowd of the season at Nashville Fairgrounds Raceway.
All right, Coast to Coast Top 7, number 6. Kyle, we're going to the dirt out at Huset's.
Yes, and Ryan Bernal picking up his first sprint car win, held off the likes of Justin Grant and Brady Bacon, drivers that are talked about so much. He's been trying more than a decade to get this win. So congratulations to Ryan picking up that USAC sprint car win just a couple of nights ago at Huset's.
Yeah, picked up one of the preliminary night wins after leader Mitchell Moles flipped, and then Mitchell Moles came back to win the big payday, the sprint car feature on Sunday night, wrapping up the USAC Nationals. But really, really cool opportunity for Mitchell. Cannon McIntosh picked up the big midget win. He's been red hot as well. So if you're following along the dirt side of things, obviously it's all on Flow Racing. A lot of competitiveness out on the USAC trail as well. They're in action this week as well. So pretty cool to kind of see them hit their stride here in the summer months. Okay, to wrap up our Coast to Coast Top 7 with number 7, I'm going to go with Gabe Brown. Won his first career super late model race at Oxford Plains in the run-up to the Oxford 250. This was the past series, the Pro All-Start Series. He was the 2018 track champion, but never won a race there. He finally gets it done. First time since 2017, actually, that he's won a race out there. And the top 3 were like 0.2 of a second apart. So, I mean, it was a close field throughout. And Kyle, Oxford Plains, legendary racetrack up there in New England, puts on a good show. I think we're starting to build that anticipation toward the 250.
Yeah, I was just going to say, home of the Oxford 250, a race that everybody looks forward to here in New England, whether you're down in southern New England as a modified fan or up in northern New England where the Pro All-Star Series and the American Canadian Tour are more present. Great race this past weekend. Congratulations to Gabe. I know he's been trying so long to get that win. He said it was just as big, if not bigger, than that winning that championship based off of consistency 4 years ago. And like you mentioned, never won a race, but was able to finally get that first checkered flag this past weekend.
All right, congratulations to all our winners for Coast to Coast Top 7. Of course, when we post this show, you can always comment on the post or like it and let us know who your top 7 should be for this coming weekend. Again, a whole host of races as we get to the calendar coming up in segment number 3. All right, we wrap up our recap of the week with our shout-outs of the week, and as always, it's hard to pick just one. I'm going to go with 2 to start off with, one driver and one racetrack. I'm going to start off with obviously Parker Kligerman that we watched win the Camping World Truck Series race. Again, not necessarily a NASCAR Roots event, but the fact that Parker is a part-timer and he's a colleague of ours on the broadcast side doing TV work for NBC, gets behind the wheel with the little team that could out of Abington, Virginia and Henderson Motorsports, gets the big win over Zane Smith in clean but dramatic fashion. I emphasize the word clean because I think lately we've talked about the trucks and even ARCA, you know, a lot of bump and runs, a lot of these kind of aggressive moves, and I think you didn't see that in the truck race, and it was refreshing to watch an all-out dogfight between 2 really good race car drivers, but it was a clean affair. Nobody dumped each other, and for Parker to get his second career win and to do it at a road course of all places, pretty cool for him. And my other shout-out of the week, I'm going to give it to Jennerstown Speedway. And it's hard for racetracks in this economy, in this day and age, to do things for free. But to celebrate their big win for the Advance My Track Challenge that the Advance Auto Parts put on and NASCAR Roots put on, the $50,000 that they won a couple weeks ago, or actually last month, They offered free tickets this weekend to any race fan who wanted to come out and watch their weekly program. And I think that is so cool for them to do that. Obviously, the $50,000 that they get kind of goes toward track renovations and things like that. But to open up the stands free of charge for race fans to take a look and to celebrate that win, I think was really, really cool. Nothing's free in this day and age, and I think a huge shout out to Jennerstown to give fans free tickets to watch their local programming. Obviously, one of the legendary racetracks, the Whelen Modified Tour, goes there. Really cool to see that. All right, Kyle, who's your shout outs?
All right, I'm going to go with Andrew Krause, part-timer on the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. Tied his best finish this past Saturday of a fourth-place run at his home racetrack, Wall Stadium Speedway, track that he knows well as he is from Homedale, New Jersey. So congratulations to Andrew, still looking for that first win. A pair of top fives on the tour. He's been running part-time for years and scored a top five effort this past weekend. In fact, he was leading most of the mid portions of the race until Jimmy Blewett got by him to take the top spot. We'll talk with Jimmy here in a little bit. And then I want to go across the pond to the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, the highs and lows of motorsports. Gianmarco Ercoli, a driver that we've talked a lot about on this show over the years, had a left front flat tire go down in Saturday's race, ended up in the sand trap, finished 23rd, I believe, well outside of the top 20. Came back the next day to pick up the race win. So the highs and lows, Gianmarco, right now out of the championship run, eighth in points, but still a couple of weekends left. The NASCAR Whelen Euro Series runs double headers. They're back in action at the Czech Republic in September. So congratulations to Gianmarco picking up that win on Sunday after having to put the car back together after an incident on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, that's a team effort for sure to get that car repaired and him to get back to victory lane. Awesome stuff. All right, final order of business to take care of before we visit with the one and only Jimmy Blewett. It is our go or no-go segment of the week where we debate a topic. I had a couple. We're going to put some on hold for some of the shows coming up in the next couple weeks, but one that applied directly to the races we saw out at Mid-Ohio, in particularly the ARCA Menard Series, was the tire rule come into effect. Now, don't forget, this was the second time ever in the ARCA Menard Series that we had to run slick tires due to wet weather or due to rain. One time actually in 2020 at Daytona, and the previous time back in 2010 at Palm Beach. So it's been a while for a lot of these teams. And basically what happened is you're allowed to change from slick tires to wets or wets to slicks. But in the case of the two Rev Racing drivers who put on slicks as the track began to dry out, they worked their way through the field, a late caution came out. They came down and put 4 fresh slick tires on, the General Tire slick tires. Well, according to the rule book that was added 2 years ago, you cannot go slicks to slicks. You can only make one tire change at the break. So in turn, they lost 2 laps on pit road and they lost the race. Kyle, what do you think about the ARCA Menards tire rule that was put in effect 2 years ago? Do you like this? Because any other NASCAR series we cover, you come down pit road, typically teams, you know what, if you catch a lucky caution, you can change tires. 4 fresh rubber could really help you. But in this case, it hurt Rev Racing. What do you think?
Well, when it was happening live and we were covering it live on here on MRN, I didn't like it. I was confused, and I think many of us were because, like you mentioned, we have never seen this before. We've never started an event in the full wet, then change over to the slick tires because the track dried out. Then we got another late race caution flag, and there was an additional tire change that apparently was against the rules. And some teams knew, others did not. And I'm still, I don't know. I mean, I like it because it's a cost-cutting measure. We don't need these ARCA teams spending more than they need. And if you gave them an extra set of tires, it's an extra, $1,200 or more these days. So I like the rule. At the time, I was confused. I get it. It kind of ruined the race. Especially for the Rev Racing guys, we had talked so much about Nick Sanchez and Rajah Caruth coming up toward the front, starting the second half at the back of the field on slicks, waiting for the others to be forced to pit road to get slicks to make their way to the front. And then they went and changed tires under a caution. I like it ultimately because of the cost-cutting measure. I think it just caught a lot of people off guard.
I'm going to go no-go, Kyle, and because I think there's some strategy involved with those who save their sets of tires. Again, just like the NASCAR National Series, ARCA Menards teams are set to have a certain amount of tires in their pit stall. It's
Yeah.
not your fault if you have an extra set left over. You're not going out and buying another one, and maybe that goes to the cost-cutting effectiveness. But if you have that extra set of slick tires, then you played the strategy game, or you came out ahead in terms of saving your equipment. Why not be able to use those sets of tires? And I think that's what Matt Butch was kind of arguing, the crew chief for Nick Sanchez, was the fact that we had this set of tires. I asked for clarification, didn't get any, changed them because, well, you got to make a decision in the heat of the moment. And then unfortunately the rule, they enforced the rule after the fact. So again, rules are rules. I'm all for following the rules. And so, unfortunately that hurt Rev Racing, but I don't like the rule because I feel like it should be limited to as long as you don't go use an extra set that goes outside the tire allotment that is set for that weekend. If you have 4 sets of tires that you have and you use 3, but you still have a 4th ready to go, then you should be able to use it. So it's tough, and it'll be debated, I'm sure, with the ARCA Menard Series next time we have this wet weather deal, and maybe if the rules get amended a little bit to allow a situation like that to occur. But it was a shame because the strategy called to take slick tires that those top 5 drivers did and the rest took wets was such a good move at the time.
Yep.
It's a shame that it hurt 2 of the front runners. But for Taylor Gray, he did the same decision but didn't change tires and ended up coming out with the win. So we'll debate this, I'm sure, down the road next time we have a wet weather race, but certainly interesting to decipher. And
it was a big penalty. I mean, 2 laps. It wasn't just, all right, you're going to start at the end of the longest line or something like that. It was like 2 laps on a 2-mile plus road course. You're never going to make that up. And not with, what were there, like 8 laps left in the race? It was the last caution of the event. Right. So I think maybe even less than that. So a huge penalty. Yeah, I think about it more and more. I'm kind of with you. If they're allowed to have the tires in their pit box, they should be allowed to use them. I guess I don't understand the whole you can't change slicks to slicks, but you can change wet weather tires to slick tires, but only do it once or have one tire change. But ARCA, and we've noticed this the last couple of seasons, ARCA has different rules, mainly because of cost cutting, than what we are used to in NASCAR's National Series. So something we have to adjust to, and something I guess teams have to adjust to as well.
Absolutely. So we'll keep an eye on things as they continue down the road. The ARCA Menard Series off this weekend. But on the flip side of the break, coming up next, the one and only Jimmy Blewett, the big winner with the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour out at Wall Stadium Speedway, his home track, joins us on the line. Coming up next on NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Flow Racing. You're watching NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Flow Racing, the new home of NASCAR Roots. Catch the Wheel and Modified Tour, ARCA Menard Series, Pinty's, and NASCAR Weekly Tour races all season long on FlowRacing.com. Subscribe today. And joining us on the phone here on NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Flow Racing, it is the big winner for the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour this past weekend out at Wall Stadium Speedway, his home track, Mr. Jimmy Blewett. Jimmy, thanks for joining us here on the show. Congratulations on the big weekend. I can't imagine what it was like for you and your family, but walk me through the emotions of not only winning again at Wall, which you've done, some 80-odd times, but to do it with the tour this year.
Well, there was a lot of emotion, more so for I feel my team and my family because of the situation that we had to deal with about 2 months prior with my daughter, becoming ill, and we had a whole season planned out here of what races we were going to do with Tommy. We had a packed schedule, and the good Lord had other plans, and we ended up, being in the hospital for over a week with my daughter, and that kind of changed the whole course, direction of what I could do and what I really wanted to do and needed to do for my family. So I took some time off, and everybody basically knows that Tommy and his guys prepare, winning equipment. Luckily enough, we were able to get Doug to fill that void for me, and he parked the car in victory lane twice. Michael Christopher, who's also my teammate, and Caleb Haiti, both of them guys have won in the car as well. So, I was kind of the guy that was left and hadn't won an actual race. We won the championship in the beginning of the year down in Florida for Speed Weeks. We had awesome momentum from the ending of last year all the way through until until I stopped running, with my daughter getting sick. So it was just something that you're sitting home watching the car win, and I never doubted myself or Tommy or the guys or anything for that part. But it was like something, a weight lifted off your back per se. Just to be able to get there and be comfortable. Right out of the trailer, I was comfortable. From the time they unloaded the car and I sat and I said, "Man, I feel good in this thing again." We went out for practice and we were concentrating on our long run speeds, not on our short run speed. And right before time, we put what we needed in for that little boost for time trials. We timed up front, and that ultimately put us where we needed to be as far as to control our own race.
What made you work on long run speed? Because it's a track that you don't get a lot of long runs, but you did on Saturday night. I mean, the race opened up with a 63 lap green flag run before we saw the first caution, and there were only 4 of those during the race.
Well, Wall Stadium's a unique racetrack. It's like no other track that I have run in my career. There's not one place I can say, oh, that's just like Wall. You compare it to there. You got to really get the car to rotate the center so you don't hurt yourself, up off, and you don't ultimately burn the car up by trying to muscle it through the center of the turn. So we knew once we had the drive that we needed, if we could keep that drive and get the car the car's rotation to where we wanted it, we knew we would have everything that we need to win the race. But there was a lot of good cars there. You had Matt Hirschman, Andrew Kraus, 2-time champion at the local track there. Him and his family, put this event on with NASCAR, which is great for us. He was there. Ronnie Silk, all the best of the tour, were there. So it wasn't easy by any feat, but Tommy and the guys giving me the car that they give me makes it easier for me to do things like that.
What is it about Wall Stadium Speedway that is so special to you and your family? I mean, we know it's your home track, but what makes that place special and what sets it apart from maybe some of the other tracks, the tour visits?
Well, it's your home track. It's you always want to be the best at anything you do, but when you're home and you're winning at home, you're that guy, per se. You're maybe you could say bragging rights, whatnot, but there's a long history at our local speedway. Guys like Ray Everham come out of there, Martin Truex Jr. It's probably got one of the longest lasting annual races each year with the Turkey Derby. So it's just a special place. It's one of them places where, for me, every time I go there, I get that feeling of wanting to win. It's a place you grow up as a kid, and like I said in some earlier interviews, you stand down by the fence and you're holding on the fence and you watch, back in the day, your favorite driver pull out with his open face helmet on and wave to you and smile at you. It's just it's a unique place. It's where I grew up. It's where my family brought me as a child there into Egypt Speedway, and it's where I want to basically end my career.
Go back to the race on Saturday night. Take us through that pass for the lead and ultimately the win on Andrew. I guess it was a late race restart, just a couple laps to go. You restarted on the bottom. Andrew restarted on the top side. You had gained some spots in the prior restart in the outside lane. Was there any concern about having to go to the bottom?
Not necessarily, because my car was rolling the bottom so good all night long. I was just really riding, just little over half throttle riding, conserving tires, and the car was rolling the bottom so good. I tried the top a few times to feel that out to see exactly what that was going to feel like. So, when I had to make a move on somebody to cross them over or even go to the outside, and they had been putting the traction compound down at the track. So I knew when my car turned as good as it did on the bottom, it was definitely going to be bad fast on the top with my prior experience at the Speedway. So I just felt that if I didn't go until Matt Hirschman went, in my eyes, he was going to be the guy to beat. Them guys that drove past me in the beginning of the race, go for it. Burn it down. Because Matt's that guy that's always, he's that sleeping dog. All of a sudden, he's riding around. He's 15th, 16th, and all of a sudden, it's 20 laps to go, and he's 8th. It's 15 laps to go. He's 3rd, right? 10 laps to go. He's leading, and then he just checks out and goes away, So my main concern and focus was ultimately on Matt because of his past history at the track and just his drive to be there at the end of every race. So it was about 50 to go, and I felt like he really didn't have that car that he normally has there. So I said, all right, let me start picking off some cars. And I got by him, and I went to get by Justin, and I bottomed out and slipped up a little and was able to get back by Justin. And I wasn't fresher and after I got back by Justin because I just felt in my heart that we're running the leaders down, but there's definitely going to be that late race caution there. There usually is, and that was what I was banking on and betting on, and it happened. So that was something that we needed, and we got it, and we had saved enough car to where even at the end of the race, I still wasn't at my full potential.
You mentioned, at the top of this interview about the difference of 2022 from when it started to where we are now. And obviously family comes first. But when you had those times off with your daughter dealing with all that's been going on in the hospital, watching the 7NY race and the wins it got between Doug Coby and Mike Christopher Jr., how'd that make you feel? Like, were you itching to get back or were you taking it day by day? I mean, walk us through what that's like, because certainly you go into a season with a plan, and that plan kind of got turned upside down a little bit.
As a racer, you're always going to have that feeling of wanting to win and that competitive feeling inside. But that feeling was totally washed away by, my heart, my feeling for my daughter and my family and my wife and everybody just, being at home, being sad, not knowing what's going on and trying to figure out what we needed to do to get her better, but watching them guys and watching that car win, it didn't really hurt for me. Like, some people are like, oh, everybody, I got a million phone calls. Oh, are you out? You're out of the car. Oh, I heard it. So-and-so's driving it, which none of that ever changed course. I was genuinely happy for Doug and Doug was genuinely happy to fill in and help out. And it's led to something a little more for him, to get some more races in and help us with our run at the Owners Championship for Tommy and his team. Tommy, this is a whole team effort, and I can't stress that part of it enough. It is collectively between Caleb, Mike Christopher Jr., Doug Coby, and myself. We are all team players. We all want the other guy to win just as much as we want to win. When I win, those guys text me. When they win, I text them. We all text each other back and forth. Good luck. Go get them. And what's really nice about having all the other drivers is we do have a lot of feedback in our corner as far as, Doug's feedback, champion driver, my feedback, Mike's and now Caleb, so all across the board, it's a good feeling to just be involved in such a great organization and group of guys. So in a way, you sit back and say, man, I worked all the way up to that point. You see, it goes right out in my favorite tracks, right to Riverhead. I love the place, and wins the race. But there'll be more races. And we're gonna win more races from Riverhead, wherever we want to go. So I'm just glad that my daughter was able to make a full recovery and is back to good health, and we're back to victory lane.
And we are all very thankful for that. My final question for you is about this pairing with Tommy Baldwin. The Baldwins, the Blewetts, two racing families that have seen the highest of highs and the lowest of lows this sport has to offer. How did it come together? And it obviously is something pretty magical right now.
Last year I I had reached out to Tommy to do the Islip 300 at Riverhead. I actually didn't even reach out to him. I wanted to be a part of the race. You know, Eddie Partridge is such a huge part of my life and my family's life as a friend, as a car owner, as a mentor, as just somebody that was just all around a leader for me. You know, anytime I needed something, he was there, and I wanted to be at that race for him and support him, you know, and I didn't have a car at the time. And I had sold majority of my asphalt stuff, you know, and I asked everybody, even the guys that had two cars, knowing they had two cars, seeing them, I got no, I don't have anything. No, I don't have anything. And I got home the one night there, and it was getting right down to the end. And I said to my wife, I said, do you think I don't have it? Like, do you think that's the reason why I'm not, they're not letting me drive? And she says, no, they don't want you to drive because they don't want you to beat them. That's why. And then if you beat them in their own car, it's going to be worse. So I said, I'm going to do something that I normally do not do. And I'm going to go online and I'm going to put it out there that I'm looking for a ride. And not even 2 minutes later, Tommy called. He said, take that offline. You're coming with me.
Wow.
In true Tommy fashion.
In true Tommy fashion, just take that down. I got you. Don't you worry about that. And so that led to the North-South shootout the week before. He said, you know what? He says, why don't we go to the shootout and just get a little warm-up in? He says, I don't have a ton of guys, but, bring your truck trailer, some guys down, and let's just get things going. Maybe we can gain a little momentum going right into it. And we did. We almost pulled it off. We had a strong second to Matt Hirschman and his guys. And then we went the next week up front the whole entire race and, running second, felt we had a shot to win with a few laps to go, got turned. But that's basically how it started. Tommy and my family have been friends since I was in diapers. My mom babysitting Tommy, keeping an eye on Tommy in the grandstands for his father when his father was at New Egypt Speedway racing. Him growing up with my brother and my older sister in the grandstands and in the pit area and whatnot. He's a guy that throughout my whole life and career, if I ever needed anything, just anything, general advice with the car, business advice, he's always one that you can lean on, and he's going to give you, and anybody knows him, he's going to give you his honest opinion, whether you like it or not. So he's been great to me. He's very open to what I feel and what I think and what direction I want to go with the car when I'm in the car. And I think that's huge for chemistry as a team. When you have a guy that believes in you, I mean, he believes in me like I'm this 20-year-old superstar that's just coming up the ranks. And that says a lot, and it makes you feel good as a driver, knowing that you have not only himself, but his whole team that feels that way, not only about you, but your fellow teammates too. So what he's got going on right now is something special that he's doing, winning all the way across the board with all different drivers. It just shows that his desire to win and his hard work and long hours in the shop are all these years are paying off for him.
Well, it's awesome, especially just because it seems like anybody who's touched that race car, it turns to gold and they turn out to take a checkered flag. So really cool that you were the latest one to do so. I have to ask you, too, it's been fun to follow your career for a long time, and obviously you still race in memory of your brother John. Your father was a racer, but how about your son James now? 14 years old, getting behind the wheel. Are there plans for him to be the third-generation modified ace out of the Blewett family, or what?
He can do whatever his little heart desires. I can tell you that. He is a special kid. And he's got a lot of talent behind him. I raced him early on when he was younger. He stopped for a little bit because he wanted to be a kid, which is fine, and we got back into it a little bit again, and he did very well again. And then, I just felt like, hey, we're getting close to where you can drive a full-size car. Let's get into that. I've taken him testing with, a few times already so far with the car, and he showed very good speed. And he's been very comfortable. But the thing I admire about it the most is every time I go, when we leave at the end of the day, I go, are you ready to go race this week? And he says, Dad, I'm not ready to be out there with them guys. I don't want to wreck anybody else's equipment. I want to be out. I need to be out here, and I need to learn a little bit more before I get out there. I don't want to be that guy that just jumps in it just because you can. So I really respect him for that, at a young age, thinking that way. So we're planning on testing a few more times, hopefully hit Evergreen Raceway, which is a local track to us in Pennsylvania, where he's able at his age to run. And, they've been grooming a lot of good young drivers out of there lately there in Mahoning Valley Speedway. So we're going to try to get him to either one or hopefully both of them before we head out to North Wilkesboro early next month.
That's so awesome. That's got to be special for you, too, to get to share this with him, just like you shared racing with your father, right?
Yeah. It's just I honestly never thought that it was going to be the path that he wanted to choose, because early on when he was winning with his go-kart, he started to notice how people change when you win races, and he wasn't ready for that as a little kid. We all know how it is when you start winning and you start winning week after week. People get sour, and for him, he didn't understand why they were acting like that. So that kind of is what pushed him to stop doing it, I feel. But now he's older. He's understanding, and he understands it's what it's going to be. And you gotta look past that and look at the bright side of it. And it is when you see him out there racing, like when I went to test with him the first time. First time we went out on the track, it was him and I brought one of my customers' cars, my good friend Ryan Fisher, who owns one of the modifieds that I drive down here. He said, "Hey man, take my crate car and go out there with him and have a blast." So it was funny because I went around the track and he was behind me, and I said, "All right, I'm going to start to pick it up now." And they're like, "Okay." He's half back, so now I'm like half throttle, 3/4 throttle, still half back. Now I'm like 85%. On your bumper, looking low. Now you're like 90%, and you're still not shaking this kid. It literally took me full bore 100% to be able to get away from him, and then to watch him the rest of the day out there with a few friends of mine, and then even following him. It's just hard to believe on how these young kids pick up now on the racing with between iRacing and just getting into it so young now. When I first started, and my brother, we ran go-karts and ultimately moved up from the go-karts to the full-size car. We never really had that where you could go race at 14. It was just, you had to be 18 to race. So it's something I'm really looking forward to, and I think he's going to have a really bright future if it's something he wants to do. If he doesn't want to do it, I'm not going to be mad at him. He could go to the next few races and look at me and say, "Hey, Dad, I don't think this is for me." But either way, we're going to have a good time.
That's awesome. And maybe one of these days we'll have him on the show as well. That'd be pretty special. I know, last but not least, I know you're not going to New Hampshire. You're going to stay local. What is the schedule for you over the next couple weeks? Fans can keep tabs on you.
Right now, I'm waiting for a couple dirt motors from Bob Burnell. As soon as I get my dirt motors in, I'd like to get out to Bridgeport Speedway and get my dirt program going. I've been waiting all year long to get out there. It's something that I really enjoy doing, running the dirt. It keeps you sharp, and we love doing it. And if I get my motor within the next week or so, you'll see me there. But this weekend, we'll be at Wall Stadium. The following week, we will be at Wall again for a 100-lapper. And the week after that, we will be at Riverhead Raceway for the Baldwin Jazambach Memorial 77-lapper. So that'll be our next 3 weeks, and then from there we will head on out to North Wilkesboro.
Well, sounds like a plan. Appreciate your time, Jimmy, as always. Congratulations on the big win, and best of luck as we continue to march down the road through the season.
Thanks for having me on, and thanks to all the fans that reached out after this weekend. I didn't realize how many people really kept tabs on me or were paying that close of attention. Having everything on Flow Sports right now really makes it good for our sport, being able to watch all the races, even though some people can't get there. I just want to say thanks to everybody for all the support that they showed.
Awesome. Well, congratulations again. Jimmy Blewett, your big winner. NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour out at Wall Stadium Speedway. Coming up next, we've got the calendar on the flip side of the break. This is NASCAR Coast to Coast presented by Flow Racing. You're watching NASCAR Coast to Coast presented by Flow Racing, the new home of NASCAR Roots. Catch the Whelen Modified Tour, ARC Menard Series, Pinty's, and NASCAR Weekly Tour races all season long on flowracing.com. Subscribe today. And welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Flow Racing. Just heard from Jimmy Blewett, and boy, Kyle, what a great interview, what a great driver, what a great gentleman. Certainly a big win for him, and like you said, things change, throughout the season, and certainly glad his daughter's okay, but it didn't stop him from just jumping back in the seat and getting a win. That was pretty cool.
No, and he's a great character in the pit area. Was able to visit with him a couple of weeks ago when he raced up in an open modified event at the Stafford Motor Speedway, and just a fun, great guy to talk to in the pits. Was so happy to be able to be back at the racetrack, competing for race wins. He did well at Stafford, and obviously a week later went to victory lane at his home racetrack at the Wall Stadium. Look forward to seeing him at many more modified events throughout this 2022 campaign, and also great to hear his daughter is back to 100% as well, because I know it was a rough road there earlier this season.
Absolutely. Good news all around. All right, final segment of the show. It is our Go with the Flow calendar. Race fans, get those pens and pencils out. Take some notes. This is the lineup coming up here as we get into the middle of the month of July, and we just mentioned Jimmy Blewett. Not going to be here this weekend, but we'll kick things off with the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. Back-to-back weeks again, this time the Magic Mile, New Hampshire Motor Speedway. It's only stop of the year out there at New Hampshire. The Whelen 100. We've been running this race since the tour started back in 1990. Saturday, 6 p.m. again on Flow Racing. Kyle, Ryan Preece has entered, the defending winner, and so is one guy named Corey LaJoie. How cool is that?
Yeah, and Corey LaJoie coming off obviously a big weekend a couple of days ago at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, leading the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race. He's been on the front row before for the Spring Sizzler at the Stafford Speedway, so he has some experience behind the wheel of a modified. I know he loves to watch the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour at New Hampshire. It's kind of their Daytona or Talladega, watching those cars draft up the front stretch and the back stretch and the slingshots. I think I counted 52 lead changes there once in a 100-lap event. It's a great race, and I know he wants to be a part of it, and why not? It's going to be obviously a one-off deal for him with the Cup cars running on Sunday. 6 o'clock following the NASCAR Xfinity Series race. It's going to be a busy weekend at the Magic Mile. Sadly, it's the only visit of the 2022 season for the modifieds in New Hampshire. It was a track that years ago they would race at 3-4 times a year, but just because of the way things are scheduled now, only time you get to see them at the Magic Mile. So if you're up here in this part of the country, get up there on Saturday for a full day of racing.
And if you can't, Flow Racing, the place to watch it. I know that's what
Right.
I will be watching when I'm up at Lime Rock and taking part in Stafford as well this weekend. Again, Justin Bonsignor, Ron Silk, Donnie Lee is entered as well. So the usual names are entered, but it'll be interesting to see how Corey LaJoie stacks up, and as well as Ryan Preece. Can he go back to back there as well? Big time modified racer up there at New Hampshire. Also on the calendar for our Go with the Flow segment, NASCAR Penny Series back at it on the streets of Toronto Exhibition Place. That is the Grand Prix of Toronto, partnered with IndyCar, a very special weekend that we get to have NASCAR, Pinty's, and IndyCar on the same weekend. Their race Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, again on Flow Racing. And Kyle, you mentioned a street race with the Pinty Series. I bet you some fenders are going to be flared and some feelings are going to be hurt.
Always. And they have a good entry list. 25 cars set to take the green flag. Marc-Antoine Cameron, the current championship point leader by just 10 over Kevin Lacroix and Gary Clute. Very tight atop the championship standings. They're about halfway through their season. I love this series, whether it be on short tracks, road courses, or street courses like we're going to see this weekend at Exhibition Place, because there's always going to be a lot of contact. Hopefully not any controversy, but it wouldn't surprise me if there was some.
Going to be fun once again on Flow Racing. Saturday night, 8 p.m., 2 to go in the SRX Series for 2022. And this is the first time they hit the dirt. I-55 Raceway in Peevely, Missouri. Kenny Schrader is the local hero. Certainly a longtime dirt racer outside of the NASCAR National Series. He ran for many, many years. I cannot wait to see Kenny get up on the wheel. I-55 is a banked dirt track, almost a bull ring. When the sprint cars are there, it is fun to watch. I can't imagine what SRX is going to be like out there in Missouri.
And he has a lot of laps in these race cars, whether it be on dirt or asphalt. He is one of the test drivers for SRX, both he and David Stremme. In fact, the first guy that I saw when I walked into the pits at Stafford 2 weeks ago for the SRX event was Ken Schrader. Was there for a full day of testing, and then he jumped in the motorhome and was going to drive back to Missouri that night, back to St. Louis. So obviously he knows I-55 well. He's had a hand in that place for a long time. So it wouldn't surprise me if the local hero finally got it done in 2022 with Ken Schrader behind the wheel at I-55 this Saturday night.
Well, so far, every race, it's been a different winner, so we'll see if we can keep that trend alive again Saturday, 8 p.m. on CBS. Continuing on the national slate, a big race out in the Hoosier State, one of the tracks I used to go to all the time as a kid, Anderson Speedway, hosting the 56th annual Red Bud 400 ARCA CRA Super Series event. And this thing is stacked between Carson Hocevar is entered, Dalton Armstrong, the defending winner, Kyle Crump, who's won as well. This is a loaded, talented field. Anderson Speedway, quarter-mile bank track. It hosts a little 500 sprint car race, a part of Indy 500 weekend. So certainly going to be a big-time auto race out there in the Hoosier State.
And I think, you got what you mentioned, Carson Hocevar, momentum on his side right now, running so well in the truck series. I think he's unofficially, or maybe officially, qualified for the playoffs.
He is, just locked in at Mid-Ohio.
Yep, locked in, going to Pocono next week. So I look for him to be strong. He needs, after the season that he's had, it looks like he's finally found some good luck, and hopefully that continues into this weekend's race.
Absolutely. Rounding out kind of the national slate of things to keep an eye on. It is not NASCAR roots, but it is worth mentioning. Those dirt racing fans, Kings Royal Week is here. Boy, it's already begun. Wednesday was Joker's Wild. By the time this show gets posted on Thursday, we're going to be talking about the preliminary night for the Kings Royal. Kyle Larson, Sunshine, Tyler Courtney, Kings Royal winners as well from last year when we had the doubleheader. $175,000 finale on Saturday. I mean, that is a big chunk of change when it comes to sprint car racing, so pretty cool. I know our partners over at Wing Nation here on Motor Racing Network have been talking about it all week, and they will continue to this weekend. Pretty cool stuff. Kyle, what else is on our calendar here as we get back to kind of roots racing?
Yeah, Thursday night, tonight, as the show is posted, the 43rd annual Vermont Governor's Cup, Thunder Road. A rare Thursday night. The Thursday nights are a regular event, but a rare big event. They're usually on the weekends. 150 laps of late model action that'll kick off the race weekend here in New England as everyone looks south to the New Hampshire Motor Speedway on Saturday and Sunday. The entry list will include Brad Keselowski, former Cup Series champion. That event will be able to be seen live on Flow as well at Thunder Road Thursday night for the 43rd annual Governor's Cup.
A couple other short track events coming up before we get to our weekly list of races on Flow. We have the past super late models. We mentioned them already. They were out at Oxford. They're out at White Mountain again this weekend, so continuing on their double-header schedule, though, this weekend, Friday and Saturday for the past super late models. And then the Montana 200, we talked about it last week on the episode. Daniel Dye is entered with not only his crew chief or car owner being two-time ARCA West crew chief Travis Sharp, but then Mark Martin is going to be on top of the pit box for young Daniel Dye. Boy, if you're going to have a legend up there, Mark Martin, not too shabby. So that will be pretty fun to watch. Montana 200, Mission Valley, Super Oval. I wonder what makes it super. We'll have to find out. That's Saturday night as well. And then, Kyle, our Flow Racing lineup is stacked, beginning with Stafford Friday. Cannot wait to be in attendance with you out there.
Yeah, Stafford's going to be a great show. 6 o'clock, a little before 6 o'clock, 5:50 Eastern time for our pre-race coverage. Stafford Speedway on Friday night. But then you have throughout the weekend, Berlin, Jennerstown, Bowman Gray, La Crosse, Fairgrounds, Meridian, Devil's Bowl, Evergreen, South Boston, Oswego, Riverhead. And that's just about half of what's going to be on Flow this weekend. You have a lot of options, whether you're an asphalt fan, a dirt fan, a NASCAR fan, a USAC fan. There is stuff for everybody on Flow Racing this weekend.
Absolutely. Don't forget about those ultimate late models at Richmond Raceway. Yes, the NASCAR track. So that's a huge race out there for them. So tons going on. We're going to try to keep it all buttoned up and try to recap as much as we can next week, but certainly this is one of the busier weeks that we've had in terms of the national slate as well as some of these big events, including, like we mentioned, the Red Bud 400. Hope to have whoever gets that big win as well. And don't forget, Slinger happened on Tuesday, so we'll talk about it all next week as well. All right, Kyle, looking forward to next time I see you. We'll be in 3D in person out at Stafford. Are you ready for me?
I think so. I will be by Friday.
Don't hesitate. That's fine. You should just lie and just say yes.
Yes, I'm ready for it.
Okay, perfect. Looking forward to it. For Kyle Ricky, my name is Chris Wilner. Thanks for tuning in. NASCAR Coast to Coast. We check off another week here in the month of July. We'll see you next week where we recap all the action once again on NASCAR Coast to Coast presented by Flow Racing. You're watching NASCAR Coast to Coast presented by Flow Racing, the new home of NASCAR Roots. Catch the Wheel and Modified Tour, ARC Menard Series, Pinty's, and NASCAR Weekly Tour races all season long on flowracing.com. Subscribe today.